within Georgia, when we're ranked nationally in our educational system, for many years, we really haven't done as well as we would have liked, right?
Right.
And we can continue to always try to push ourselves to get better. But being a teacher of the year for the state of Georgia, and being a part of the classroom for so many years, what do you think is one thing that we can do differently, right, to continue to try to push ourselves to be better within the state of Georgia, as far as student achievement and things like that, teacher retention rates, things like that? What are some things that we can do within Georgia?
It's going to sound cliche, and it's easier to say than it is to do, but we need to build a culture in our state around academic excellence that says, hey, we have great students and we want them to succeed and they're going to succeed, and that education is still the key. I don't think that message is preached loud enough or often enough, that education is still the great difference maker. And I know that it's preached in other states more so than our state, and we need to increase that. But we also need to make that true. If we tell students for so many years that education is the thing that's going to set you up for a healthier life down the line, then we also have to build a system where when they graduate from college, they can get the jobs that we promised.
Right.
If we've been promising them that education is the difference maker and they invest all these years to get the education and the degrees and then they don't get jobs, then we've sold them, back in my neighborhood, we called it a wood nickel, right? We call it a wood nickel. We can't do that. Well, we need to build a system where we reward their effort and preach the message that education is the great difference maker.
I want to talk about what's happening currently with you. I know that you are on several different speaking engagements, and I don't even know what that looks like. When you become Teacher of the Year, do they just, what exactly is your job role now? What are you doing?
So, like I mentioned earlier, my responsibility is to represent the concern, to be a spokesperson, to represent the concerns and thoughts of all the teachers across the state. Now, that I like to say falls in about three categories. One thing is to travel around speaking at conferences and professional developments.
What is professional development? What is that?
Professional development is in training of teachers, okay, to make them better. So a lot of times I speak to teachers or teacher groups or teacher agencies about what teachers need and how teachers can be better. Secondly, I sit on a group of policy-making boards and meetings to give input on decisions, hopefully, again, to represent the concerns of teachers. Is this a good idea for teachers? Is this a bad idea for teachers? And then the third thing I do is study and write. I write letters and op-ed pieces to promote teacher topics in the broader context.
And you're currently doing some research as well, right? Are you done research at Georgia Tech? Is that correct?
Yeah, so I balance all this with my biochemistry research at Georgia Tech. With Dr. Raquel Lieberman, I work in a protein crystallography lab that's hopefully going to find a cure for Alzheimer's and inherited glaucoma.
Wow. And last question that I had for you is, I know that you're working with ESSA. I wanted to know if you could tell us a little bit about what ESSA is and what you do with it. I'm
happy to. I think this is one of the things that our wide audience across the state needs to know more about. ESSA stands for the Every Student Succeeds Act. It's education policy that will replace No Child Left Behind. It passed the federal chambers in last fall, September, October, one of those months, and now Georgia is preparing our mode of implementation for it. To speak on it a little bit, I like to think of it this way. I think No Child Left Behind started off with the right heart, wanting every student to get the help they needed from highly skilled professionals and making sure that no children were left behind. But the implementation of it from the federal level down to the states became burdensome, a lot of attention given to testing and things like that. Well, the Every Student Succeeds Act, I like to think, maintains that same heart, wanting every student to get what they need to be successful, but it relaxes a lot of the federal oversight so that states can make decisions about how to build criteria and how to implement it in the best way for our state. And of course, that makes a lot of sense. That's one of those boards I mentioned that I sit in and I give input on the policies and decisions and rules we're going to implement under the Every Student Succeeds Act. And I want to advertise that the state is trying to gather feedback from all of our stakeholder groups, parents, students, community groups. The state is having a group of listening sessions or hearing sessions across the state of Georgia in these next upcoming months. In fact, the next one for the metro area is on September 14th here in Atlanta. There's one scheduled for Columbus. There's one scheduled for Albany. And you can go on the websites and find out if there's one coming to your area. But I encourage parents to come out and be a part, be involved. That's what really makes a difference in the life of your child, to be able to say, I know beforehand what's going to happen. I've had an opportunity to speak my piece. And we encourage that. We need everybody to be a part of this if it's really going to be the best thing for our students.
Beautiful. So we're coming to an end, and it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Pleasure's been all mine.
I wanna put it in a certain form though. I wanna ask you if I was a student or just an individual reading your book, because I felt like this experience has been like reading the book, getting to know you. What's a message you would leave off or leave at the end of your book, and what would you want to, if you can challenge a student or just challenge an individual, what would that challenge be?
Yeah, I'll end with telling my personal story, some things that even my closest friends don't know. The guy who was the state teacher of the year, me, is the child of a single-parent mother. My mother was 19 when I was born. The guy who was the state teacher of the year is the child of a drug addict father. When I was a boy, I've never lived in a home with my dad, but I've seen my dad at his lowest moments during the formative years of my life. The guy who was the state teacher of the year, when I was in the 4th grade, my dad went to prison for what was supposed to be 16 years. The guy who's the state teacher of the year, in 2nd grade at school, they found out that one of my ears didn't work. They sent me home with a note to tell my parents, hey, your son is deaf in one ear. I never fixed it. The guy who was the state teacher of the year grew up in an extremely poor neighborhood, gang-riddled neighborhood, drug-infested neighborhood. And I mention these things to say, if I would have turned out to be nothing, I don't think the world would have been surprised. If I would have ended up on drugs myself or in jail myself, I think the world would have said, that's what we expect from a kid coming from these statistics. I had all the wrong statistics on my side. But I like to think that whatever level of success I've achieved, I owe it wholeheartedly to the teachers that I had in my life. When I look back on my years in school, in 2nd grade, in 5th grade, in 8th grade, in 10th grade, I can only ever remember being told positive things about myself at school. School was the one place that I loved to go. And my teachers invested in me with their words of affirmation. Casey, I don't even know if they knew all the things I was going through, but my teachers always said, Casey, you can do it. Casey, you're smart. Casey, you're special. Casey, you can be whatever you want to be. And in enough time, their confidence in me became my confidence in myself. I want to close with saying that because I said that earlier. As teachers, that's what we need to be doing for our students. And very often, you have to do it before you have a reason. Tell a kid how much you believe in him. Even when you're not so sure, tell a kid, man, I have faith in you and I know you're going to be something. Because in enough time, that fuel builds up and that kid starts to believe in himself, and he will make your dream of him become true. So I say that to teachers. I say that to parents. Don't discredit your child because of the situation they're coming from. We're all walking balls of potential once we find out how to unlock it. I say that to students. When you look at your life and the things that the obstacles you're overcoming, know that there are others who have gone on before you who have overcome the same obstacles and have gone on to find joy, fulfillment, some level of success in their life. So my message is a message of hope. My message is a message of confidence. My message is a message of faith and belief in ourselves and in each other.
I love it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Casey Bethal, for joining us today. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in. And we wish you well. We know that you're going to continue to do great things, and we were just very honored to sit amongst you today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Truly is a pleasure.
The pleasure's been all mine, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.